It's 93.3 WMMR. I'm Pierre Robert, and we have the pleasure of the company this afternoon of Christopher Anthony Wolstenholme. Is that the correct pronunciation?
No, it's not Anthony, actually. It's
just Tony.
Tony, yeah. Yeah, that's. I used to get that a lot at school.
Now, why did your parents not go with the full Anthony?
Well, because Tony's my dad's name, and he was christened Tony. So, yeah, that was why. I was named after my dad.
Welcome to Philly.
Thanks, cheers.
It is so nice to have you here, and tonight will be your 7th show. We did a little research on this in town, and I don't know, with the amount of concerts that you do, if a city sticks out, particularly one over the other, but I'd like to go back to the very first date, which was April 12th in 2004 at a little club called the Khyber in the older part of our town, and it couldn't have held more than maybe 200 people. Have you any memory of it? It's okay to say no, by the way.
I don't, but I think that may have been one that was cancelled, actually. Because I think that was when we did our first, it was like our first proper tour of America. We played in Atlanta, and it was the first show. And Matt smashed his face up with his guitar, and he kind of split his lip right open, and he couldn't sing because his lip was kind of hanging apart. And I think Philadelphia was the next show after that. So I think that show may have been the one that was cancelled, actually. Or maybe not, I don't know. But I know that there was one that was in Philadelphia that was cancelled. It was the first time we'd sort of played here for a long time. I mean, I know that every time we've played in Philadelphia, it seems to me like it's very much a rock town, you know. And, people really like their rock music here, and the crowds are very, very physical compared to the rest of America, I think.
Well, you've just opened up this leg of the tour in Atlanta a few nights ago, and it's a sold-out headlining tour of arenas. Now, you've done headlining gigs before, but I'm told that this is the first time where America doesn't feel any different from the other places because you're so well embraced in the other areas, certainly in England and the other parts of Europe, but America's been a little slower to catch on.
I don't think it's been slower. I think it was, a lot to do with the label we were with in the early days. When we did our first 2 albums, we were with Maverick. And I think Maverick just had very, very different ideas to us as to what the band was about, and they were looking for a big radio hit, which wasn't really what we were about. Everywhere else in the world we were breaking through from playing lots of live shows everywhere, and that wasn't really happening in America, and we didn't really play, we didn't tour. Maverick were kind of clinging on for this radio hit, and so the first album obviously didn't do anything. And then the second album didn't get released at all. So it wasn't really until Absolution came out that we switched to Warner's, and we were working with a bunch of people that obviously understood that the live side of the band was the most important side, and for anyone to really get what this band was about, they would have to come and see us play. So Absolution was really our first album here. So I don't think it's really been slower. It's just that we started a bit later here,
Well, does it seem to you you're finally getting the respect, adulation, whatever you might want to call it, that you are receiving in other parts of the globe?
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, with this tour, it's the first time we've brought the full production from the European tour over to the States, which is great because I think a lot of people in America have always been a bit annoyed that they've missed out on that side of things. But of course it's nice. We struggled so much in America on the first couple of albums, and we almost kind of thought we'd lost America at that point. So obviously everything that happens in America now just seems like a big bonus to us because it's something that we never really expected to have. So.
Now the latest album was recorded, I think, where Matt lives in Lake Como, Italy, at a place called Studio Bellini. And I'm curious how it was for you guys to go into that setting and record in Italy.
I mean, it was very relaxed because it was our own studio. We built the studio from scratch, and we bought all the equipment, and something that we talked about doing for a long, long time. But it was nice to be in an environment where we felt that we were at home. Because whenever you go to somebody else's studio, you're never as relaxed as you are in your own. Yeah, exactly. And and quite often you're working by other people's rules and things like that. So it's nice to just have a studio where we could go and work for a week and then go home and not have to worry about packing all the gear down or anything like that. It was always set up, and we could work at our own hours. So it was a very relaxed schedule compared to what we were used to. I mean, when we did Black Holes, I think we did 9 weeks straight in the south of France in this remote place where we didn't see any other human beings for 2 months or so. And we all went crazy, It was like cabin fever, It was like being in prison or whatever. So we kind of said we'd never do that again. And there was something really nice about being able to work, pretty solidly for a week and then go home and forget about it. Because then when you go back a week later, you kind of listen to it with a different sort of set of ears. You almost listen to it as an outsider. When you're constantly in the studio all the time, you lose perspective of what's going on sometimes. So, and I think for that reason, the mood was quite up. I think the stress levels were a lot lower than usual, and obviously we were producing it ourselves as well. Which,
why was that?
well, I think with each album we've done, I think the band has become more and more involved in the production side of things. I mean, we've always co-produced to some extent, but I kind of feel like on Black Holes and Revelations, the amount of production ideas that the band put in was, it was quite heavy, really. So we kind of felt that maybe it was just time, and we were always very open to the idea of maybe getting other producers in at some point. And the idea was just to start on our own and see what happened. And I think we expected it to not work, and then we'd have to get a producer in halfway through, and then we sort of, before we knew it, we were finished. And it's like, oh, wow, we've done an album and we've produced it on our own. But it kind of gives you more freedom, I mean, it's great to have a producer and it's great to have that outside opinion, but at the same time, it's another set of ears to please as well. And sometimes you can find yourself in a situation where the band are very happy with something and the producer wants to take you somewhere else. And that's no disrespect to the producer. I mean, the producer is there to put his ideas forward. But I think with this album, we didn't want any.
Well, Uprising might be a good example of that, because I think you thought when Matt brought the song in, it was kind of more of a synth electronic sort of a type of thing, but then it sort of morphed into a glam rock kind of a presentation by virtue of the fact that, I guess, the way you guys discussed it amongst yourself, which leads me to wonder how that process works when he brings a song in, and the democracy, if it is such, in the band takes over and helps to develop the song.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's always very much been a band, even though, the bulk of the songwriting ideas come from Matt, and there are some songs that he'll come in with, songs like The Symphony, I think, where he had a very, very strong idea of what the song should be. And it was kind of obvious what me and Dom should be playing on that, because the band was very secondary to the orchestras and the pianos and stuff. So, I think that was a song where Matt had a very definite idea of where he was going, and me and Dom kind of just went with it. But I think there are a lot of other songs like Uprising, like Resistance, like most of the rockier stuff, where Matt comes in and he's got the chord structures and he's got the melodies, but he doesn't necessarily know what the grooves are going to be, or the bass lines or drum beats or whatever. So, it's at that point where the band will just play stuff over and over again and try lots of different ideas and see where we can take it, and sometimes we'll think we've finished something and we'll think, well, no, let's take it somewhere completely different and then see what happens. And, the only downside to that is, I mean, we did that with Starlight on the 4th album, and I think we ended up with 7 different versions of Starlight. And it wasn't until we were mixing. I think we even mixed like 3 different versions of it, and we didn't know which one was best. It was really, really difficult. But, that's part of the fun of being in the studio, is trying lots of different ideas, and, that's what you enjoy most as a musician.